Hi, this is Calvin Cox. This recording I'm doing is about deacidifying the world's oceans, and the reason we want to do that is because it's happening that a lot of sea creatures cannot make the shells that they live in because the world's oceans are becoming too acid. Snails are not able to make shells, I guess it's clams, and other sea creatures. There's also a big problem with corals. They found out that 3/4 of all sea life has spent some time around corals, that's coral reef systems that sustain them. Many sea creatures were born around coral systems, lived there for a while and moved on. So coral systems sustain 3/4, essentially you could say corals sustain 3/4 of all ocean life at some point in the life of that particular type of sea creature. Also, there is a type of fish that will actually eat coral. And corals are a very unusual living organism. Either they're slowly increasing in size, or they're slowly decreasing. Now, if the pH level in the ocean gets more towards being too acidic like it is now, the little sea corals that make the coral, they're not able to do that anymore because the water is getting too acid. So essentially corals will begin to more rapidly decline, and as a result all the corals will die, and the life that the corals sustained, they won't sustain it anymore. So people are very dependent on the sea and very dependent on a healthy ocean. They're finding out that the oceans absorb 16 times more CO2 than all the trees on the surface, all the plant life on the surface of the earth absorbs. So you can see it's really important that the ocean remain very healthy and viable. Like I said, this talk is about deacidifying the ocean. How would we go about that? One of the main things that this talk centers around was needing to figure out how much calcium oxide, which is basically garden lime, how many teaspoons would be necessary to change ocean water that's at a pH level of 8.1 up to 8.24 for, let's say, 1 gallon. Now, what I did was I wasn't able to find all the information that was necessary. Hopefully, a gallon of water would only need perhaps a half of a level teaspoon to bring it to the proper pH. It might need 4 teaspoons. This is a guess on my part, but the whole object of all this talk is to first explain, like I said, about the corals and sea creatures and how acidifying oceans are hurting these sea creatures. The whole purpose of the talk is to establish some kind of number that we can use to make calculations. Okay, the number does not actually have to be accurate. It's just an exercise to establish some number to work with, and then at a later point when I would actually figure out how many teaspoons, or what a fraction of perhaps 1 teaspoon you would need, then I can readjust the calculations. Okay. Mankind has gone for 250 years, since the very beginning of the Industrial Revolution, burning coal and wood and oil and gasoline and on and on and on to heat his homes, run his cars, his factories, everything else. and never really realizing what was going on. So now people of today, in the year of 2015, are having to deal with this huge problem, and it needs to be dealt with in order to keep the oceans healthy, in order to keep us as human beings healthy and functioning. So what I'm going to go through right here is some basic calculations having to do with how many teaspoons going into a gallon of water, and then doing the calculations for what it would work out to be for covering the surface of the oceans. Thank you.